This is your host, Matt Brunquell. Hello and welcome to Unify's webinar on key areas of focus when converting Oracle Forms applications to Java. Before we get started, I want to review a few housekeeping items. For those of you new to Unify Corporation, we're a publicly traded software company that's been in business for over 30 years. And we're known for being the first to deliver a relational database in the Unix environment. Since then, we've delivered development software products that run across different databases and platforms, really geared towards building and modernizing business applications, and geared to the business application developer who places a premium on productivity over low-level coding. And today our business has expanded beyond database and development products into migration solutions, conversion solutions, as well as email archiving. Now, we encourage questions on the webinar, and the way you do that is to use the Q&A button on your WebEx toolbar. That's the button with the question mark. And there's also a chat button, but it really makes it easier for Lorraine and I to look into one panel for the questions to make sure we address all of them. Now, I mentioned Lorraine. That's Lorraine Ruddy. She's our Director of Customer Services in our Oracle practice, and she'll be driving the demo portion today, and I asked her to pipe in during the presentation where appropriate because she has plenty of experience working with our customers on Oracle Forms modernization projects. So with that, let's go ahead and review our agenda. So the objective for today's webinar is to provide you with answers to the most common concerns facing organizations looking to convert their Oracle Forms applications to Java. We will start with an introduction that includes an overview of Unify CipherSoft and review the 4 key focus areas when converting Oracle Forms applications. Next, we will detail each of the 4 focus areas further. These areas include Oracle Forms structures with a one-to-one conversion to Java, application integration points, general concerns around conversion, and then non-supported Oracle Forms structures. We'll follow this with a demonstration so you can see how easy it can be to convert and deploy an Oracle Forms application into a Java environment. And this will be followed by a Q&A session. So CipherSoft is a wholly owned subsidiary of Unify Corporation, and CipherSoft has an established and very successful practice for modernizing Oracle Forms applications. We're a member of the Oracle Modernization Alliance, or OMA, and the OMA is an Oracle initiative to help customers modernize their applications and infrastructure. And CipherSoft is the only member of this Oracle initiative with a focus on Oracle Forms. Now, customers have built very successful applications in Oracle Forms, but are looking to modernize in today's technologies to keep them relevant. And there are several options that include web enabling the application through an upgrade to Forms 10G or 11, and soon 12, if you will, for those of you following. Another option is rewriting the application or automated conversion. Each has their pros and cons to consider depending on the requirements. CipherSoft offers services around all of these options, and really choosing the right option or path is a webinar topic in itself. But for today's webinar, we'll focus on the conversion option to Java. So these are the 4 key areas. The one-to-one conversions. These are common Oracle Forms structures that have a direct conversion into Java. Application integration points. These are points in the application where calls to third-party products or Oracle reports are present. General concerns. And this is some of these are similar to the one-to-one topic, but require a little more handling or detail. And some are just broader concerns than a specific Oracle Forms structure converting. And then non-supported Oracle functions. These are typical functions in Oracle Forms applications that have no equivalent function or command in Java. And we'll discuss some of the most common ones and how they get addressed in Java. Now we'll look at each one of these areas in a little more detail. So let's start with the one-to-one conversions. So CipherSoft has worked with many customers over the years on conversion projects, and our experience is that there's a very high percentage of Oracle Forms conversion that can be automated. And you'll see that in the demo where we show our conversion tool, which is called Exodus. By the way, you'll hear me refer to Exodus in the presentation here. But in the meantime, these are some of the most common Oracle Forms structures with a direct conversion into Java. And we'll kind of go through some examples of each. Now, I won't spend a ton of time on some of these examples because you'll get to see them in the demo, but we'll just give you a feel for what they look like. So one of the most frequent questions we get asked on projects is around the LOVs. So here's an example from the Summit application, and for those of you that don't know, that's a Oracle supplied application. They use it a lot in their training, in demos, things like that. But here's an example from the Summit application of an LOV named Sales Rep LOV, and you'll see this in the demonstration later in the presentation. But what we're showing, you can see the object, and then we're showing some of the generated XML that gets generated as part of the conversion. So another common area or example is triggers. And again, this is from the Summit application. This time, this is a trigger called preform. And what you see here, what we're showing is, okay, here's the call in Oracle Forms, and then here's the generated Java. What's nice about this, as you can see, that in Java, Oracle Forms is more of a 4GL. Java is really more of a 3GL, if you will. It's a lower level coding. This is one of the advantages of automated conversion is where there's going to be more lines of code generated. With a conversion, you're getting some of that automated for you, so you're not having to write as many lines of code. So host commands are also supported by an Exodus conversion, and by default, host commands are executed on the application server. But when you convert over to Java, you're going to use an application server to run the application. But the nice thing is that you do have a choice. You can configure those converted host commands to be executed on the client side if that makes sense for what you're doing. The other thing is these get automatically converted, but if you're changing platforms for some reason, let's say instead of a Unix platform, you're now going to be running this on a Windows server, you may need to change what those host commands are calling because of the operating system change. Here's an example of Textio command that's converted. And the Textio package contains constructs that provide ways to write and read information to and from files. Now, similar to the host commands, these commands are generated to execute on the application server. But if they were to be executed on the client side, that could be done. It would just require some manual intervention into the code here, into the generated code to make that happen. Now, master detail relationships between data blocks is something that you're going to see a lot in Oracle Forms applications, and it's fully supported by an Exodus conversion. In this example, the customer names along with the phone number and sales reps' names are displayed in a table in the top right-hand corner there. The information in the canvas in the bottom right-hand corner, which is the detail, reflects that of the row in focus from the top table. So if you scroll down in the customer list in the top, as you do that, the customer info data below will update automatically for each customer. And we'll show this live in the demonstration later, but it's important to note that it's capturing those many-to-many relationships, if you will, and this is something that's done automatically. You can imagine, just like what we were showing, the triggers and the functions, all the Java code generated, you can imagine the Java code, if you were to rewrite this from scratch, that would be needed to handle this kind of master detail, just even the code structures for displaying this on the screen and not having to do a whole page refresh every time you went down a row to make all the changes in the other data blocks, if you will, on the canvas. Menus is another one we get asked about a lot, and menus are again, automatically converted in an Exodus conversion in the same manner as Forms modules. And the appearance and functionality are almost identical to what you see in Oracle Forms. And as you can see, the top one actually is Oracle Forms. I think you can see by the little icon in the top left-hand corner of the menu on top. And the bottom one is what's converted on the Java side. So you can see it's very much a like for like. Now, I kind of went through some of the examples of the one-to-one conversions. We'll see more of that in demo, but let's move on to the second key focus area, which is application integration points. And we'll look at how calls to third-party products get converted, and then we'll look at calls to Oracle reports specifically. So what you see here is the user exit command, which is often used to call all sorts of third-party functions and or programs. And these routines may be Pro C code or some other executable. As long as the executable will work on the platform that the Java environment's running on, then it can be called from the Java application. In this first example, an executable file called XYZ function is being invoked. And then you can see what in the generated Java code, it's just it's a similar line actually. You can see the name of the function is, we're using this XYZ, but it's maintained. In the second example, the user exit commands are being used to find the text message test and then displays it when found. Now, the one thing I want to kind of pause for a second and point out here is note how the function names are maintained even in the conversion. And you'll see this in the demonstration, but the structures and hierarchy of the forms project is actually maintained so that it's much easier for someone familiar with the original forms application to find their way in the converted Java application. And I think that's really one of the strengths of the solution you'll be seeing today, is being able to maintain that structure and hierarchy of the project makes it much easier to maintain and extend the converted application moving forward. Now, some organizations want their Oracle reports converted to BI Publisher when they convert to Java. And actually, CipherSoft offers a service to do that. We do BI Publisher conversion. But there are some companies that wish to maintain their reports in Oracle reports, and call them from the Java application. And this can be done, is the good news. In Oracle Forms, either of the built-in functions, run product or run report object, may be used to call Oracle reports. And the example displayed is using the run product function if you read through it. One note here, if the Oracle reports are being upgraded to 10G, then some tags may need to be added to the express config XML file. Moving on to the third area, general concerns. We'll review some of the general concerns around converting Oracle Forms functionality to Java. And you see the object libraries here. Exodus actually converts the Oracle Forms, and it extracts the contents of the OLB objects that are used by the given forms. Therefore, the code that was in the OLB objects is converted to Java code for every form. Now, as a result of this, there is a possible replication of these packages throughout the forms that they're used in. But because the object libraries are proprietary Oracle files, we really can't convert them standalone as a central one. So some massaging of the resulting generated code when it comes to object libraries is beneficial to streamline it in the Java environment. It's not necessary. It'll work. But if there's a need to do some streamlining and optimizing, that's something that we have done for various projects around the object libraries. But just know that the object libraries are converted. It's just there are some architectural decisions, I guess, that need to be made in the application to decide, okay, based on what's converted, what's the best way moving forward. Reference forms is another area of general concern. And Exodus fully supports the use of reference forms for both layout and business logic. And the conversion process is identical, except the reference form, you need to identify it kind of up front because it has to be converted prior to all the other forms that reference it, if you will, as a reference form. The converted application fully supports cascading style sheets, or sometimes the customers call them templates. And the first template has to be created manually with all the required visual attributes, and then this template's accessed or referenced by all the forms in the application. And actually, we do some projects with customers where they will create some user-defined templates to create a new look and feel for the converted app. Some customers want a like-for-like conversion to minimize the disruption to the end users and minimize any retraining, and then refactor it kind of longer term. But other customers, it's a priority for them to modernize it right out of the initial conversion. That's one of the approaches we use to do that through the style sheets. Record locking. I don't want to spend too much time here because I'm going to go long here if I do. But we'll talk about it in a second, or you'll see it in an architecture slide. But Exodus basically has a set of Java libraries that are designed to emulate the Oracle Forms runtime behavior. And it uses the locking mechanism provided by the underlying database to help control the locking and the transactions. And this is managed through the JDBC API. Another area of general concerns is query by fields. As you know, in Oracle Forms, the user can query based on data entered in multiple fields on the form, and they can include wildcards. And this is all supported in the Exodus conversion. This example shown is the Oracle Forms data block, and you can see all the block properties displayed. And I'm going to go to the next slide where you can see the resulting generated code. And note that we're including an order by clause, and the filter is on the pay CPNT column, matching whatever value the user entered in the field. Hotkeys are fully supported as well in the converted code. This is the sampling for the Shift F10 button. I'm going to just move through this. I have the diagram slide on here, but there's a couple areas here of general concerns. There's modal versus modeless, and in Oracle Forms and dialog boxes are either modal or modeless, and a modal form in a dialog box must be closed or hidden before you can continue working with the rest of the application. Now, we support for the converted application modeless forms and how we do the conversion, and many different forms can be open at the same time, and the user can change focus between any of them. We don't really support modal at this time, and I'm not sure if that's specific to us or if that's really a challenge in general when moving from a client-server environment to a web-based environment with a browser interface. And Lorraine, I'll let you pipe in on that if there's anything you want to add to that. Store database procedures, those are converted. We recommend, the common concerns in there is what to do with those stored procedures. We recommend they're left in the original database, and they can be called from the generated Java application with no performance degradation using standard JDBC drivers. However, Exodus can convert these stored procedures into Java classes if there's a requirement for it. And sometimes folks are looking to do that if they're taking more of an SOA approach, which kind of brings me to this third bullet here. So a lot of people out there that we're talking to in general are talking about SOA or service-oriented architecture. But the definition seems to be a little loose. I always have to ask somebody, well, what is your definition of SOA? And so I want to take a moment to define it so we're all on the same page. And it might help you understand why people ask about it in the context of supporting it in a conversion. A very basic description of SOA is it's a development approach, really. So you could use any language to do SOA. It's not specific to Java or any particular language. It's a development approach, and it's a development approach to applications that really is all about separating the presentation layer from the business logic layer from the data access layer. This way, you can add different clients to the presentation layer, or you can package up the business logic as web services for access by different applications or different, again, clients. And it can also make the application easier to maintain and extend. Now, the Exodus architecture supports this approach as these layers are separated as much as possible in the conversion. And if you look at the illustration here, you can see, we have that client layer. In fact, we have some different options for the client layer. And then the business logic as well as the data access logic, you see these different columns. I know it's kind of hard to see in this slide. It's a little small, but I just wanted to give a little illustration so you can see that. just know the way that we've done a model view controller approach with the Java conversion, we do break it up into those different layers. So it does make it easy to integrate it in with any SOA approach you're taking. And if you want to end up taking the business logic and packaging it up into web services, it's fairly easy to do that. And just as a proof point, you can, with Exodus, convert the entire app, or you can convert pieces of it. You could just go back. You could convert the entire app and go back and just convert the presentation layer again into these different options. Or you could just convert the PL SQL. There's different things that can be done, and I just wanted to point out that we do support that kind of approach. Multi-language support, we support multi-languages. It'll convert even a non-English application as long as the input files for the converter are created in English. It will properly display non-English characters on the form, which are stored in the database using the proper encoding function. This is an example of a Spanish form. I actually think we have some Spanish speakers on today, which is great. So we spent a lot of time on what converts, but I added this fourth key area for everyone because they also always want to know and are very concerned about what does not convert in an automated conversion and what kind of effort is involved. And these are some common examples. So the D2K WUtil, this is a library provided by Oracle to do some client-server functionality like reading client registry entries. And we have not converted this library. And the conversion tool will recognize it. It doesn't fail on it, but it generates a similar line to the original command. And then the compiler will actually flag it for the programmer when it tries to compile the generated Java class. And that's when some manual intervention will have to be done to duplicate this functionality, if you need to duplicate it in your new web-based architecture. Sometimes you don't. And that's kind of one of the messages on this non-support concerns is typically you're moving from a client server to a 3-tier or N-tier type of architecture. Some of the things that you were doing were very client-based in the commands, and some decisions have to be made. All right, do we need to recreate that? If so, what's the best way to do it in this new architecture? Go-to statements. These actually typically, there's not equivalent to go-to in the Java environment. So typically these have to be removed from the Oracle Forms app before the automated conversion. One example we see go-tos used for in some Forms applications is error handling, and you would end up doing those as try-catch statements in Java. Timers, Java code, if there's timer functions, Java code has to be written to duplicate that functionality of the timer commands. Normally they're used for pausing execution to allow an external function or job to complete. The message to take away on this area is, yes, there are some things that don't convert. We have, our tool will recognize those things and flag them for you and where they're at in the app. And we typically have a kind of best practice or approach for how to handle that over on the Java side. I'm going to actually just move through this slide on the JDBC drivers. Just know that the Oracle JDBC drivers don't support calling some arguments or return values of the PL SQL types table. And there's no plans, we work closely with Oracle, there's no plans by Oracle to change this at this time. Instead, they encourage customers to use ref cursor, Oracle collections, those types of things. There are workarounds. You can create wrapper procedures that handle the data as types that are supported by JDBC. But there's an example where I'm not going to go into it at this point because I think I've spent enough time talking. I think we've gone about 20 minutes. So I'd like us to go into the demo portion so you can actually see this in action and see some live examples. So at this point, we're going to demonstrate the conversion step in a conversion, and some key points to keep in mind during the demo is we're going to convert that Oracle Summit application I referred to. So it may not be as complex as some of your applications, but it does have menus, libraries, LOVs, business logic, in addition to just a simple form. Now, since this application has no conversion issues or no non-supported Java stuff from the 4th, this will, you're not going to see that, but we could show it, offline at some time if you want to see our analyzer, how it would flag non-supported functions in the example. But the Summit application, it actually, the Exodus product converts at 100%. This is a full conversion. So, we're going to convert the entire application, but you can choose to do just pieces, as I was talking about in that whole SOA concern. For example, you could just convert the PL SQL, or once you converted it, you could just convert the presentation layer into a different option. Because we have those different options, you may want to have some clients for these, on one option and some clients on a different one. Now, we're going to show the third like-for-like GUI option. We're going to show a like-for-like conversion in a browser to illustrate some of the examples from the 4 areas. But as I mentioned earlier, we can also use customer-defined templates for those wanting a new look and feel for their converted applications. Also, for some folks, they want to still maintain a client desktop in the converted app. And some of you may find that surprising, but the reason why is some folks, they're looking to consolidate the technologies and program skill sets, and they've chosen Java, so they're looking to get it to Java for that reason. But because of the nature of their application, they believe that client-server is still the best structure for it, especially things that are very heavily data input-oriented, and they're concerned about performance and concern over the web. And we do offer a Java client desktop as an option as well. So that's why I mentioned that. But what we're, just so you see it, for those of you that may not want a like-for-like GUI option, there are some other options out there that we offer, but we're going to show the like-for-like. Now with that, I'm going to turn this over to Lorraine Ruddy, who I mentioned at the beginning. It's actually very great to have her doing these demos because she works with most of our customers out there, so she sees the requirements. She's very, very responsive and very good about understanding what they're trying to do and how do we get them where they want to be in their converted Java application. So I couldn't think of anyone better to have really doing the demonstration today. And with that, I'll turn it over to Lorraine.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Can you hear me okay, and can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. As Matt said, we're just going to quickly run through the conversion of the Oracle Summit application, and I'll try to point out some of the specific examples that Matt talked about in the presentation as we do this. Currently, what you can see on my screen is the Oracle application running under Form 6i. Just a small application with 3 forms and a couple of libraries. You'll see this tab canvas. You'll see this tree structure. The fact that Matt mentioned, it supports the conversion supports the master detail relationships. So when I update these items in the tree structure, you'll note that the information is changing in this table and in this table as well. And things like here on this billing tab is this list of values. So these are all part of the original application. We'll run through the conversion process, and then when I show you the generated application, you'll see that all of these things have been converted automatically. So that's the original application. The converter looks like this. This is the Exodus tool. This is the user interface. There are just a few options that can be set prior to doing the conversion. Things like, and again, Matt mentioned this in his part, are we actually converting stored procedures from the database? We don't normally if you're sticking with your Oracle database because of the performance. Are you using reference forms? Again, we support that as part of the conversion. We simply need to identify it. The reference forms need to be converted prior to the rest of the forms. So there are a few options that you can set going into the conversion. The rest of the items that you see here on on the user interface, input and output directories, and database connection info. Those are all configurable items that are set within configuration files prior to starting the Exodus tool. And then I can go ahead and here under the conversion process, under this drop-down, I have some choices here as to, because we support the conversion of both form, or I shouldn't say both, but conversion of form modules, menu modules, and the PL SQL libraries, all three types of form modules. All three are in this list. We typically always start with the PL SQL libraries. They're the pieces that are common to the application. So in this particular application, in the Summit application, we have a couple of libraries out there. So we'll go ahead and we will choose them and convert them. Something else I wanted, just as these are converting, something I wanted to just comment on in part of the presentation, some of the things that are not supported. Matt had mentioned like the D2KW util library, and that's a library that, as Matt said, contains a lot of client-server type functions. And that's a library that's been de-supported by Oracle. When they went from 6i to 10G, that library is no longer, because it's not a client-server environment anymore. So that's one of the reasons we don't support it either, and we have no. It doesn't make sense for us to go ahead and implement support for that library. It's been de-supported, so when you move to the web kind of environment, there are other ways to handle some of those functions that may be necessary for your application. So back to the conversion on the screen. This is the conversion report that we get at the end of every conversion step that we take, which simply tells us, gives us a list of what we've converted and whether it's been successful or not. And in that particular case, both of the libraries converted successfully. I'm next going to grab the menu that's a part of the Summit application. There's a menu out there. Convert it. And then the final step will be to convert the three forms that are a part of the Summit application. So again, here's our conversion report, the message that it converted successfully. There are also audit files that are created on your disk as well, so that you can go back and look at what was converted at any particular time. And the final step then is the form conversion. Matt also mentioned that there are several steps within the actual form conversion. You could break it up and you could just convert or reconvert the PL SQL portion of it, or possibly just the canvas and list of values. When we first start out, when we first convert it, of course we need all of the pieces to convert, so we'll just choose the high-level step here. And we'll choose the three forms that are out there. And of course, this conversion, this is a smaller application. We've converted this application literally thousands of times. It goes through very quickly, just a few minutes in total to convert the entire application. As your application increases in size and complexity, obviously the length of time that it takes to parse that information and build the generated code can increase. But this typically is the shortest part of the project, doing the actual conversion. It's deploying it and testing it and running it that typically takes the majority of the time in any conversion project. So again, we get the final report that says the conversion of the forms was successful, and it has it broken down by the various sub-steps that it went through for each form. And once the conversion is complete, the very last step then is always take all of that generated code that was just created and create a WAR file, a web archive file, and it's that WAR file that then gets deployed on your application server. And we support any kind of application server that supports a Java environment. So we're just using Tomcat here as part of our demonstration today. Obviously, Oracle's application server, the WebLogic server, WebSphere, I mean, any application server that supports the Java code is will work. So that's the conversion process. I'm going to close that up. So again, this is our original application. This, in the essence of time, I'm not going to redeploy that application, but this is the generated application. I've already deployed this, and this is running with the Tomcat server. And you'll see that it is very similar to the original application. And all of these pieces that we talked about have been automatically converted. So that's the generated application. And if I just take a few minutes here just to show you quickly, this is JDeveloper version 10. This is what we use in-house. And then again, you can use any IDE that supports Java code, but this is what we use in-house for maintaining these applications. And you'll see that I have this Summit plugin application deployed within JDeveloper, and I have the go out and look at some of the source code. The one thing I also wanted to mention, in addition to what Matt said about the one-to-one conversions, when we talk about things like triggers and list of values, is that all of the nomenclature is maintained from the Oracle Forms application. So not only do you get a one-to-one kind of conversion, if you can find it in the Oracle form, you can find it in this generated Java code. The names of those triggers, the names of those list of values, the names of the stored procedures, all of those are the same as what they were in the Oracle Forms application, which just helps, if your developers are moving from the Forms development to the Java, it just helps, if they're familiar already with the Forms application, it makes it that much easier to read the Java code. So there was let's see, there's triggers here. Here's all the PL SQL that's been converted. I think it was this second, first trigger here. Preform, this is the one that we looked at, you saw the example in the presentation. So that, again, that's the generated code that you saw in the presentation. This is where it's at within the all of the source code that's generated within the Summit application. Matt, I think in the essence of time, maybe we should go ahead and open up the question and answers.
No, that sounds good.
Okay.
So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and go to the Q&A session. And again, the way we ask that you submit your questions is on your WebEx toolbar. Use the button with the question mark. There's a lot of you on, so it just makes it easier for Lorraine and I to get to all the questions if we just look in the Q&A panel. So we'll give you just a moment here to post your questions, and then we'll come back on in about 30 seconds and start going through them. And we thought we'd just go ahead and go through it now because instead of going through too much detail in the demo, because there may be, we're going to let you guide us if there's specific things you'd like to see in the converted application. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start going through the questions. The first one, I think, was posted while you were still presenting, Lorraine, because I think you answered this. The first question was, does this work with any particular Java IDE? And as Lorraine mentioned, we actually use Oracle's JDeveloper internally for the projects we work on, but this will work with most Java IDEs out there. And in fact, I think we can be a plugin to JDeveloper. Is that right, Lorraine?
That's correct, Matt, yes.
Okay. The next question, what level JDK do you support?
Currently, we're certified on 1.5. We do have clients running on 1.6 without any trouble. There is some. It depends a little bit on which application server you're using as well. The combination of application server and JDK sometimes, and whether you're using a plugin version or an HTML version, but basically we're certified on 1.5. Great.
Next question. The Java that is generated, can we view in the JDeveloper 11G? So can they view the generated Java code in JDeveloper 11G, I guess is the question.
Yes. We actually, we have both JDeveloper version 10 and version 11 here, and we have just kind of completed work on the ADF 11G, the rich client version, the user presentation layer, which would be specifically for JDeveloper version 11. But both, any of the code that's generated could be viewed or maintained in JDeveloper 11.
Great. Next question. Do you license the tool for the conversion, or do you just do the conversions as a service? I'll go ahead and answer that one. We actually offer either as an option. So we do license the tool to customers that want to do the conversions themselves. And when we do that, we do a one-week training course as part of that licensing. It's 1 week, and we find the customers are very proficient enough to do the conversion with 1 week of training. And so we factor that into the sale of the license. But we do have some customers who end up using us to do the entire conversion. We offer that as well. And then we have some where it's something in between, where they license the tool, but they use a little bit of consulting from us just to help them get off to a quick start and just stay on track with it. Next question. Is there a runtime, or do we get the source code? So the answer to that is there is no, from a licensing perspective, if you license the tool, there is no runtime, if you will, that you have to pay or anything like that. You do get the source code. You get the source code to your converted application, as well as, if you remember in the presentation, I mentioned that we have some Java libraries that we have included to emulate that Oracle Forms runtime environment, if you will. You get the source code to that as well. So things, as you know, as an Oracle Forms developer, it's a 4GL type of environment. It lets you do kind of higher level coding, so you don't have to do low level coding for things like message handling, handling the event handling, the messaging between the objects, and the data, all of that stuff. And so we've created Java classes and libraries for that. You get the source code to that as well to maintain and extend with the converted application. So once you convert with this, there is no dependency on CipherSoft. Next question. Is it possible to convert the FMV directly to Java with Exodus?
Actually, we take the FMV modules, and we do the same, the FMV, MMVs, PLLs. We take those modules and we actually create the text version of those using either directly through the Oracle Forms Builder or through the, we can do it with a batch command that just calls the Oracle Forms compiler. Is it the compiler? Yeah. So we actually create the text versions of those files, and then that becomes the input to Exodus.
Okay. Next question. Can you show the architecture diagram of the tool presented? Here, let me go back. There it is. It's a little bit smaller here. If you would like a copy of that architecture diagram, you just need to get in touch with your CipherSoft representative. They can get you a bigger picture of that. Also, by the way, a recorded version of this presentation and demo will be made available as well for you to review at your leisure as well. All right, next question. Does the generated code depend on ADF? Why don't I start with the answer to that, Lorraine, and then you and or Peter. I think Peter in the background there with you.
Yes.
Can elaborate if I don't complete it enough or if I get off the path. So
okay.
The generated code does not depend on ADF. So for those of you that don't know, ADF is Oracle's implementation of JSF, or Java Server Faces, and it's a way of, in Java, trying to do a very rich graphical presentation layer in a browser-only environment. And so Oracle has ADF as their solution for doing that. Now, with our conversions, so it's really about the presentation layer. With our conversions, that is one of the options that you have for the presentation layer. You can have the presentation layer that you see converted into Oracle ADF, and maybe Lorraine or Peter can specify which releases that we support right now. But in fact, we're doing a customer project right now where they've chosen ADF as a presentation layer, and that's a browser-only environment. But we also have that's not a requirement. We have other choices. We have a browser environment for the client that's not ADF. It has a lightweight plugin in it, and we find a lot of customers go with that because it gives them the plugin is so lightweight. There's no impact to performance, and in fact, in some cases, it's better performance because you have a little more configuration control, if you will, in terms of the network traffic and things like that, of when minimizing or streamlining the network traffic between your browser client and the application server. And then, as I mentioned, we have, you can do this as a Java desktop as well. Next question. I think this is English as a second language. I'll try as best as I can. The tool and I think the question is, does the tool generate the task flow?
The task flow?
Yes. I'm wondering if they're talking about the kind of the business process. Yeah, or the business process logic. We may
Exodus converts, everything that's in the form. So user presentation layer, all of the business logic, data access. So anything that was in the original Oracle form, for the most part, can be converted.
Okay. Next question. If we plan on doing our own conversion, is the 1-week class held at our site? Not sure if you can give us an idea of cost. So the 1-week training class can be held on site. In fact, often we do that because when someone's licensing the tool, they have several people they'd like to have trained, and it's cheaper to have one trainer go to you than to have you go, send several people to one of our locations for training. So yes, we do that on site. That's not a problem. We can do it at our site as well, though, if for some reason, whether it's for security, some of our customers, there's security concerns, or there's things like that where they'd like to do it at our site. So we can do that. In terms of pricing, we can follow up with you offline, but typically for a 1-week training class, I want to say it's $5,000 for the 1-week training class. Okay, just a follow-up question on the architecture diagram. They're wanting to clarify their question about the architecture. They are wanting to know about the final solution at the end of the conversion. And it may be we just need to have someone walk you through that diagram slide, because that is kind of what the final application from a Java perspective looks like. You have your, on the left-hand side, the client side, depending on the presentation layer that you've chosen, communicating, again, depending on the presentation layer you've chosen, either via XML or HTML, to the converted app gets packaged up into a WAR file on the Java side, because that's how you deploy J2EE applications, is in an enterprise archive. I said WAR file. The WAR file is bundled in the enterprise archive file or EAR file to the application server. All right, regions generated by each program. I'm not sure what that question is. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, Lorraine, or not. I just think that's...
Yeah, I'm not sure about the term regions there.
Yeah. Okay, then we got a kind of an editorial comment. I guess I may have insulted someone on my description of ADF. They're making a point that ADF is more than the presentation layer. I don't know if Lorraine or Peter you want to add. I mean, we're just in the context of converting your forms applications. Certainly, that's been the focus of our customers, is wanting to be able to display the presentation layer in Oracle ADF. Certainly, I know there's more to ADF than just the presentation layer, just trying to stick to where the primary concern, or what is the customer trying to solve for when they're talking about converting the forms apps to Java in reference to ADF.
Yeah, I would simply add on to that. When we convert a form, the only concern, or the only time we differentiate between ADF and a plug-in version is at the presentation layer. The business logic remains the same regardless of which presentation layer. So that's the only point that it comes into consideration within the conversion of with the Exodus product. So,
right, and that kind of goes back to the SOA approach. I mean, we want to keep that as loosely coupled as possible, so that someone does have those different choices. Next question. The password to the database is unique, is saved in a file when running the application. Is it unique for all users? Does that question make sense?
Yeah. I mean, every user can have, there can be a username password combination, right? Everybody can have a unique password. So I'm not sure about a single password for the database. I'm not quite sure how that applies. And any time that you log into the converted application, you are required to log in with a name and password that's going to be validated in the database.
Okay.
Go ahead, Peter.
Okay, so just a couple of sentences to this. Basically, it is exactly the same as you are logged into the database from Oracle Forms or from the PL SQL. You can enter the username and password. It is not hard-coded anywhere in the application. So every user can have his own, for example, level of the security or access to certain objects, like, for example, tables or views or something like that. So the access is customized for particular user. It's exactly the same as in Oracle Forms.
Good point. Very good point. Okay. We're running out of time. I do want to try and get to one or two more questions here. The next one is, it's asking, is the converted application totally JEE compatible. I'm not sure if she meant J2EE compatible there. With the use of the standard techniques, she's in parentheses JPA, JSF, EJB, servlets, or is it using some proprietary framework?
Basically, okay, in this sense, the proprietary framework is basically our runtime, but as Matt mentioned before, you are going to get it from us for free. It is piece of the application. It is basically supplementing the Oracle Forms runtime. So you are going to get this code from us, and you are going to get the classes, so you will be able to review the code and also customize it if you need to.
Yeah, just to elaborate on that. So there is a framework in there, as I mentioned. Although it's all written in standard Java, so it's using standard J2EE coding techniques, and then like I said, we have created these Java classes and libraries and code to emulate the Oracle Forms framework, if you will, because in Oracle Forms you were using a framework. And, just like the things of being able to query by field and update, insert, delete, again, the message handling, all that kind of stuff, those are things that low-level plumbing that we've created so that you don't have to. And, again, you get all the source code to that. So, whether you write it or we write it, I guess either way makes it proprietary, if you will, except, as Peter mentioned, you get the source code. There's no additional cost for that. There's no dependency. In fact, if you choose, you can choose not to use it if you want to write it your own for all of that stuff underneath. Bless you, and if you're that proficient in Java, then go for it. This, though, is a way to, that's been done for you, so that you can focus in on the business logic and the higher level pieces of code of what your Oracle Forms application was written for in the first place. But you do get all of that and can decide what to do or not do with it. Next question, and this is going to be our last one, and then we need to close it up. What support can you get after the conversion of our application? We actually do offer support, and we have a lot of different options there. I mean, for some folks, they want to be able to call in for technical type support because they're going to be doing ongoing conversions and things like that. And so we have annual support agreements that we do in regards to that if you want. And also, every project that we do, if you license the tool, by the way, every project that we do, we always are looking at, okay, is there something that didn't get converted and it appears, 50 or 80 times in the application? Let's add that into the tool. Let's automate that if it makes sense. And so we're constantly updating the tool with that kind of stuff. And so you can also buy maintenance on the tool, so you get those updates and any updates we do to the libraries and classes I just mentioned. But again, you don't have to. It just depends on what your needs are. And then we also offer, consulting for the length of your project, if that's what you want, on a time and materials basis. One thing I will mention, if you use us as a service to do the conversion, we do a fixed price conversion. We're able to because in the tool we have an analyzer that actually goes through the app before you or us would do a conversion, so you can see exactly what's going to convert and what's not, what's the effort involved, and with those results we're able to to give you a very detailed and precise fixed price estimate as to what it'll take. Now there's some further questions about reports and stuff like that, but we've really got to wrap this up. We've gone over an hour. If you have follow-on questions, just follow up with your CipherSoft representative. If you don't know who that is, just ask to be contacted by one through the info. And let me show you how you do that here. 1 second. Just to summarize here, to close things up, we talked about the 4 key areas or concerns specific in the Oracle Forms applications that organizations typically look at. But some of the things to take away in addition to those 4 concerns is, with this Exodus solution, it's a full conversion of the Oracle Forms application. So it's all of the business logic and the data access as well as the GUI. What our customers come back and tell us is this is a 90% reduction in the project time versus a rewrite based on when they actually do their business case and look at the alternatives. They find an automated conversion with Exodus has saved them 90% in project time, and that, if you do your business case, results in a huge cost savings as well. The other thing that I mentioned, and then Lorraine kind of did in her demo as well, is with this conversion, it maintains the structure and hierarchy of the Oracle Forms project. And this is huge if you still have your Oracle Forms folks involved. Whether or not you're trying to get them to Java, this eases their transition or learning curve into Java to have this application that they can go into. But even if you're not trying to do that, if you're going to turn over the converted app to your Java development team, but you still have these Oracle Forms folks that are familiar with the Oracle Forms application, they're going to be able to look at the converted app and be able to see what's going on where. They're going to have that context. And then the other thing is, we spent some time on what's not supported. So this isn't a silver bullet. It doesn't do 100% conversion 100% of the time. I mean, we actually have had some folks where, their simple and moderate forms do convert completely. But more often than not, you're going to have some complex forms you're trying to convert, and there will be some code in there that will need to be manually modified, or some decisions will have to be made in terms of what's the best way to duplicate that Oracle Forms functionality from the client-server approach into the interior environment. But it's typically not a big deal. It's just a matter of understanding where that's at. We have our analyzer to help identify where those points are at, and we have experience to help you if you want in terms of how to address that. Now with that, we're going to close it up. We want to thank you for participating. We hope you found it useful. Actually, when you exit out, you'll get a little 20-second survey. Please take a moment. Let us know what you thought. What did you like about it? Were there things you wanted to see that you did not? And are there upcoming webinar topics that you'd like to see on Java conversion? We do these monthly, and we're always looking for topics that you guys are interested in. So take a moment and let us know what we can be doing for you. And again, let us know how we did and what we can be doing better. The other thing is, if you want to come and see us, we're going to be at OnetoOne in Washington, D.C. at the end of June. And then I forgot to add it onto this slide, but we're going to be at Oracle Open World as well. In San Francisco in September, the 19th and the 23rd, and we'll have a booth there as well. We're at OnetoOne in Open World every year. If you don't know who your Unified representative is, you can go to CipherSoftInc.com. There is an info alias that you can post, if you have things that you want to see. I think also even on your invite or the survey, there's a way as well. In fact, on your survey, you can actually request contact as well on that survey I mentioned. That's probably the most efficient way for you, since you're going to get into that here as soon as you get out of the webinar. We will post a recorded version of this presentation, demo, Q&A session. It'll be available early next week, maybe by the end of this week. Today's Tuesday. So where you would look for that is on the CipherSoftInc.com website. Again, thanks again for participating, and Lorraine and I wish you a great day.